second meeting of the month is. And here in person, we have Dave Purcell. He's going to be giving the presentation, and that one is going to be on portrait retouching. So those who are familiar and have seen Dave's incredible work, again, Photographer of the Year for 2021, the advanced category. A lot of his portraits and that are outstanding, so we can all learn plenty, I'm sure, from a presentation that he's going to give on the portrait touch-up. So again, some of the post-processing that he uses for those. Let's see, and then the next meeting will be the first Wednesday in February. And what we're going to do is, rather than have that be a competition, we're going to go ahead and have that also be one of these exhibition nights. Again, get kind of tuned up before we get into the competition season. So it'll be, again, one more of the exhibition nights similar to this that we're doing tonight. And that's the first Wednesday of February. Sorry, I don't have the date in front of me. February 2nd. And again, there will be more of this information that will be coming out on emails and that. And then on February 16th, we have Don Wilson from Estes Park, wildlife photographer and landscape photographer. She's going to be presenting. We believe that her presentation is going to be on polar bears in Canada. I know she has a workshop that she does up there in Canada, focusing on wildlife, but specifically polar bears is one of the big attractions up there. So she will be in person, assuming hopefully we can still continue to remain meeting in person, but that will be that third Wednesday in February, and that will be February 16th. Let's see, the next one will be our first competition. That will be the first Wednesday in March 2nd. So yeah, March 2nd will be our first competition. That one will likely be a open category. Just usually we open the year with a open category as opposed to a theme. And so now we've got time to again get a couple of these exhibitions and think about images and that you might want to submit for an open competition. First theme night will be the following competition, which will be in May. Yeah, three theme nights a year, and so those will be May 4th, July 6th, and September 7th. And we will do a better job of getting to what those themes are well in advance, as opposed to the last couple of years when I was falling a little bit behind on getting the themes to everybody. That's right. Let's see here. So, and then the next meeting will be March. That would be the third Wednesday in March, in person. Cole Thompson is going to be presenting on black and white. What was the name of that? Why black and white? That will be the third week in March. Okay, and that one is again, as we said, in person. And then, and again, that covers us for the next 3 months. So there'll be more that will fill the calendar from that point forward, but that's what we've got so far. I can bring, there's a couple of open ones that we're going to look to still fill. One that looks interesting this year will be June 15th. We have it's video photography for still photographers. So for many of us that do a lot of still photography, but we have the gear, our cameras themselves that are capable of doing video. We have Jim Briggs, who will be presenting on how to better use our cameras and our gear and that for video while we're out in the field. So that will be June 15th. Yep, exploring the light. So we just had a meeting with the group over there with the Lone Tree Art Center. We are working on the exploring the light for this coming year. I don't have, and I'll have it. We'll get the dates out to everybody in that. Over the next couple of days, you'll see we'll have a poll going out with several categories in that, what we've done before in that, we typically have categories such as portraits, landscape, night photography, and then several other categories and so forth. We try and narrow it down to what usually like 4 or 5 different categories per year. And And so what we've done is we've kind of come up with 6 or 7 options. We'll go ahead and send that out for those that would like to weigh in on that. Feel free to send in your responses. And then by next week, we should have the categories selected for the Exploring the Light. That will be taking place here. Like I said, I don't have the dates right here in front of me, but there will be entries will start being submitted in February. I believe the load-in date is early March. End of March. Yeah, that's right. End of March. It was like the very end of March, like the last week of March. Right. Judging in February, in the March, and then evening. Right. So again, more on the dates on that. Sorry, I don't have those here in front of me, but we will have more on that. But just keep an eye open for some of the information that will be coming up with the Lone Tree Arts Center Exploring the Lights competition. Let's see. So I think that was it that I had on my calendar for the things that are coming up. All right. Oh, you didn't. You weren't on there. Okay. Got it. Okay. So I'll repeat what Bruce just said. So if anybody else has anything, go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself. Any feedback, or you can put it over in the chat. Any further questions? And if there are not, then we'll go ahead and get moving forward with tonight's exhibition night. What we have is 30 images altogether. I think we had it as up to 3 per member. And so I believe we had 3 from 10 different members. So we have 30. And I always look forward to these meetings and that. It's good to get some of the feedback that comes from others here in the audience. And, while we're going through that, for those who have submitted and are here attending virtually, definitely be sure to unmute yourself. And, what we typically will do is give a little bit of a story behind the image as it comes up, and kind of mention, if it's relevant, maybe what some of your settings were, what your thoughts were, what the image means to you, and go ahead and feel free to ask any questions in terms of, if there's any feedback that you're looking for, any suggestions, and so forth and that. So with that, this is my first time doing this part of it. So I'm going to pull up Lightroom and go from there. And then Bruce, while I'm doing that, if you want to sort of keep an eye open on the chat or and that, I'll do that, because I'll bring this down.
If you want to make a comment, try to speak loud.
Or you can even walk over here behind me whenever something comes up, if you have something to say on that.
Yes.
I
A quick question for everybody that's on call. I just unmuted myself. Are we getting any echo on your end? Sound okay? Because we got 2 computers going. Let us know if that's good or bad. Don't be shy.
Sounds good to me. Can you hear me?
Sounds good.
Sounds like Paige said that we're sounding fine. So
Sounds good.
thank you,
Okay.
Paige. Couple thumbs up there. So it sounds like we can run with both of our computers and that. So I know what I can do is maybe angle mine a little bit. Maybe it helps get volume coming from.
Nobody can
across
get
the
close to me because I have a cold.
room. So okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring up the. Let's see. Ready to share screen? I guess I'm already up there.
You are a co-host, so you should be able to. Did you see it down at the bottom?
Yeah.
And then and pick the screen you want to share. There we go. Oops. You see it over there?
When I push that down, I got rid of the zoom. So that
Should be go back to Zoom.
With that has that. Now where's the? There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
Blind leading the blind here, folks.
So I just need to share screen. Is that all I need?
Yeah, share screen and then they'll ask you, you should be able to pull up your Lightroom at that point. You have Lightroom open, correct?
I do, but it's not showing up on that one.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's that. Oh, so Lightroom's back there, but it's not showing all of these, right?
Yeah, go ahead and hit share. You click on Lightroom. And
Are we there? Okay.
And you've got the information on who did what, where, when. You want me to pull it up and I can tell you.
That part I don't have.
Okay, let me, I'll pull up Lightroom and I can tell you whose image it is. Or you can hit I.
This is fine.
I'm in full screen now.
Yeah.
Go hit,
Can you hear me?
Jeff's.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I'm not synced with you, but.
Here.
It's, no, wait, did I steal it from you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have stole it from you. Because you're the host. Sorry. Let me, how did I get to share screen?
So it shows that I am sharing screen.
Yeah. But it's showing. No. Make host. I'm gonna make you the host. Kick me out of this thing. Now you can share your screen. This is Jeff. The first one is Jeff.
Can you guys hear me?
Please share your screen. I don't know why I'm.
It says I am sharing my screen.
Yeah. Oh, I bet it's because I'm seeing it. I'm projecting it for you guys. You're not seeing it. Because I'm connected to TV. So.
So
Now you're in
so
control.
that's me. If I hit full screen.
Yep.
Okay.
And then Jeff, if you want to talk, feel free to unmute yourself. And
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
hello.
Yes.
All right. Hey, hi everyone. This was a photo I took several years ago. This is Lower Antelope Canyon in Arizona. I just really love this photo. I just love the color, changes throughout the canyon. Obviously the sun, it was actually fairly early in the morning. I was one of the earliest, I think I was there by myself for a while, but with my guide, but I just love the colors from the bright oranges, to the magentas, to the purples, just changing throughout the canyon. So it's just, it was quite an experience going through that canyon, and something I'll never forget, but came away with a lot of great images. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Jeff, can you hear me? No, we didn't. Okay, there we go. Okay, thanks. This is beautiful. I'm muted. And because whenever I'm talking now, it's just showing that I'm muted.
No.
Can you guys hear me?
yes,
Okay,
we can.
Yeah, this is beautiful, Jeff. Thank you for sharing this one with us. I had the opportunity to do that probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Did you go there like as part of the like the photography group where they kind of walk you through, or are you able to do this on your own with finding your own compositions and that?
Well, I went on my own, but I don't know. I've been there several years, but I'm assuming you still have to have a guide.
It says I have an echo going.
So
Yeah.
I had a guide, but it was just me and her in there. It was pretty much just the
So I
two of
turn
us.
my volume all the way down, but I'm not. One of these days we'll figure this out. Okay, am I still echoing there? Okay, thanks, Bruce. Anyways, yeah, no, this is beautiful. This is a place that I would really like to go back and return to and do that myself. I mean, I like just the shades, the colors that you have, and the way that the light goes into that kind of, the eye goes right into that center top area, and that is beautiful. Move to the next one. And Bruce, you add who this is, who.
All right, can you all hear me? Can you hear me all right?
Then it messes that up. Yeah, if whoever submitted this one, if you don't mind, just unmuting yourself and
Yeah.
again, just sort of describe a little bit of
Can you hear me?
what was going on here with
Can
this
anybody hear me?
beautiful elk scene.
Can anybody hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay,
David
good.
Weiss.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Could hear you.
All right, great. Yeah, this is in Estes Park. A picture I took of a elk that was kind of sitting in the shade in the summertime with a zoom lens, so I was quite a ways away from him as well. So I just kind of like the detail and the antlers and the hair and everything, and how it kind of came up. Looked kind of neat, and I like that you can really see his eye pretty good.
Why did you choose this crop?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, here I'll repeat. Dave asked why you selected this particular crop. Was there a reason for that?
I just kind of liked the way it kind of looked with the antlers and everything, just in that the way he's looking in the photo.
And Dave, did you have suggestions on the crop? Was that
Well, I don't know. Looks just a little awkward.
sure? Dave's coming around in that. He was just going to kind of get some of his thoughts on the
Great.
crop.
Well, I was just thinking, because of the way the elk is sitting down, it looks like a little bit of an awkward crop on the bottom. I do like that his eye is in focus, and I do like that you included, you didn't cut off any of the antlers, but
Show a little more of the
It
body.
it just seems
maybe.
like more of the body
Uh-huh.
should be included perhaps.
Okay.
Meaning,
Definitely,
like,
yeah.
if you were to go to that bottom left section, take that, where the lowest border is, and take that
Mhm.
down a little bit. I don't know. It's like that's kind of where the grasses start to kind
Yeah.
of intersect with the body.
Right.
And then would you go a little further left then too, or is that meaning open it up a little bit more to show a little bit more of where the body would be or is?
I don't know. I do like that there's space in front of the elk. That's very nice.
Right.
And he's more or less on a third on the bottom, but I would include a little bit more of the grasses on the bottom perhaps.
Okay.
And show him really relaxing and not
Uh-huh.
just the head appearing out of almost nowhere
Right.
perhaps.
Okay. No, that's definitely good thoughts.
But but to your point, it does look like the elk is nice. I mean, the body, the fur, the hair, whatever, and so forth is nice and in focus. You can see that it's, like you said, the eye is nice and sharp. The antlers this elk, that's during the velvet season where they have the velvet on the antlers, and that looks good detail on there and some of the light coming through. So
Yeah.
no, it's good. Anybody else have any thoughts on it? Okay, thank you, Dave. Is this Jeff again?
Yep.
Jeff
Hey, you
Woodward?
got me? Can you hear me, Mike?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I took this. This is a couple years ago in the San Juans. I mean, it's just a simple scene that I got off the side of the road. It's right outside Ore. And I just like the curve of the aspens with the reflection there, just kind of made a subtle C, I guess. But I just like the kind of the change. There's still a little green there, but like the change, and then just the curvature of the aspens.
Yeah, no, this is beautiful. To me, I like the way that the fact that it's got, you know, some of the yellow, some of the green in there, meaning it's in that transition change in the fall. Obviously, the San Juans are always a great place to go. It looks like I know a lot of times, when we see scenes with lakes and so forth and that, sometimes some will say, don't split the horizon line right in the center. But I think for reflections, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of where that, not that it's a rule, but that guideline can be broken. In this case, I think that, having it, that horizon line, or the line in the lake works out really well in that. And I like also kind of, there's that small patch of yellow that's kind of the smaller ones that are in the, I'll say, right center over there, and that kind of right there, not as high as some of the other trees and so forth. But I think that kind of gives it a neat look too, in that, just with the reflection right on that side of it, and a little bit different of a tone of yellowish, almost orange, to go along with some of the other colors throughout the scene. And to your point, a lot of times you just see those aspen trees with the trunks just almost straight vertical. It's kind of neat to see here with the curves, and then the way that those curves interact on the reflection.
It's a good picture.
Are they? You're seeing my screen, or they're seeing? Okay. But beautiful image. I like that one a lot.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that one? Okay. This one. I don't have the whole name on there. Starts with a K. Oh, there we go. Okay, Keith Thurman. Is Keith on? Okay. So it looks like that Keith is not on. If anybody has it, so we don't have, maybe the story behind it, but if anybody has any thoughts on it, again, we are recording it, so we can later take a look and see what some of the commentary is. Dave Purcell is coming around. He's taking a closer look at it here on the screen.
I like the way that he processed this. It's got a nice kind of vintage look. And it's very, he tries to go with a symmetrical, almost symmetrical look. I think I would have liked it to be included just a little bit on the bottom of the tires, and it's a little bit more symmetrical in the center, perhaps. And it's too bad you can't do anything about the crop placement, but that also would have been you absolutely can't do anything. You can't task the guy to
Mhm.
do it. But I really, really, really enjoy that. The color tone behind this, it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think that is too. And then to your point, I guess in terms of the symmetry of it, I guess maybe if you were to take that right side in a little bit and have, or take the left side out, I don't know how it was shot, if it has, if you have room to move over there on the left side of it, if that was cropped over there or not. But again, to where each of those, I don't know what you call them, but lights or whatever that are part of the wing, to be more symmetrical. And then I don't know if, like on the bottom, I think what he's saying is maybe all the way to where the tires have a little bit of room, maybe below the wheels themselves. But I think you're right. The colors are really good on this one. I like that, the way that red plays with the yellow and kind of the greens, and just kind of the moodiness of the sky. And looks like it was some weather there, rain or whatever in that, but that looks great. All right, move forward.
I think it needs more contrast.
Yeah. So this is Darren White, and Bruce just made the comment that, of course, it's out of focus and all of that, right? So, so he's saying that obviously very sarcastically. This is beautiful, but before I say anything, we'll let hopefully Darren is there to chime in.
Yeah, I'm here. I like seeing the images so far tonight. I'm glad people are submitting. So this is just taken over at Chatfield, probably about a year ago or so. Just super whiteout conditions. A normal exposure would have made the fence post almost black. So I overexposed it a little bit to bring out the details in the fence without showing a lot of the stuff in the grass that's around it. So I wanted to isolate the fence.
Hey, Darren, can you talk about like anything you do with the colors? Because it's really kind of cool. It's just selective colors. Just it seems maybe that's
So
because of the snowstorm, but
yeah,
you
so
see the kind of brownish burnt reds and just hints of grass, and wondered if you could talk about like what detail you wanted to preserve, and did you purposely do something with a selective color palette?
yeah, so just imagine shooting in a full-on snowstorm, not being able to see much detail at all. I knew the fence was there. I was able to see it enough to compose the shot, but I had to overexpose it to bring out any color. And then I did bring up the shadows a little bit in post-processing to bring out the wood color, the orangish yellowish wood color of the fence. And then that brought up some of the grasses there you see like after the first curve. But yeah, when I was looking at this with my eyes, it was like a black and white image.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I like about this one. It has a key effect, right? And part of it is the conditions that you're in, and like you said, overexposing. But I'm sure those, definitely are not the histogram, but it's definitely not, blown out. But still to the point where you can get some of that detail and some of the grasses over to the right side of that fence. And then, obviously, just seeing this, you can tell how hard it's snowing just because how much is showing against, that's blowing across the,
yeah, you
where
can
it's
see the
visible
snow
across the
by the fence post.
areas of the fence posts where you can see. And then, obviously the other big thing here too is just the, the composition. I don't know, if you were above the fence, I guess so, however you found that or whatever in that, but
Yeah, so
to
I
be
was up,
able to bring
I
that
was,
line just right from that bottom right corner, right up to the top left corner. I know you're a master at finding those kind of, I'll say diagonals and purposely putting those things right on those corners. And you did a great job of that right here.
thanks. So yeah, I was up on the road and this is one of the parking lots that you kind of drive down into. This fence is fair. This is one of the newer fences that they put in. So that's why the color is still fairly nice on it and everything. But yeah, I was just having some fun shooting in the snow, playing around with leading lines. Just, you know, when the conditions are like that, you definitely have to look for other things to shoot rather than stuff that has beautiful skies in it or something.
Darren, did you just happen across this or did you plan on being here?
So I live right next to Chatfield and I'm over there. I would say I'm probably at Chatfield Lake State Park 100 days out of the year. Just looking around, seeing potential compositions, making mental notes for when the conditions may be right. So after they did their remodel the last couple years ago, this is one of the fences that they had put in, and I have to drive by this fence to go to the dog park, and I saw the curve of the line, but with the gravel road and the grass and the trees, it does, you can't isolate the fence. But in the snowstorm, I was able to isolate the fence, and that's what I wanted. I wanted the fence to guide the viewer through the scene. But if there's no snow, you just can't do it because there's too much other stuff.
Yeah, and to your point about being at Chatfield, a lot of times, and that I happen to run, my dog and I happened to run into Darren this last fall, and it was early morning, but the conditions were much different than this right here. So, yeah. He wasn't out with me while I had the camera up until afterwards. I was sort of walking around, and then I wanted to get him out for a walk, and then caught Darren in the parking lot as we were getting ready to leave. So, no, thank you for sharing this one, Darren. It's beautiful. Anybody else have any comments on it? Oop. I jumped. There we go. Jeff Woodward again. Right. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is a close-up shot of upper Yosemite Falls. This was taken probably, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was just out in the meadow there below the falls and just taking close-up shots, see what I can get with some of the definition and you know, the streaks of water coming down the falls. I like this one of the best. I probably had 7,500 of them. I took over 45 minutes or so. But I really like, this is probably the base of the upper falls, but I like the large curtain, obviously on the center and left center of the screen and some of the definition, but I also like how the smaller stream on the right-hand side of the photo kind of anchors the full force of the left-hand side with the smaller stream on the right. And I obviously converted it to black and white with a little bit harsher light that we were getting, but the sun was still blasting the falls at that point before it went into shade. But this was probably the best of the bunch that I like.
Were you able to get a rainbow on the falls?
Not when I was there. Actually that trip I got the lunar rainbow, so I stood up
Oh yeah,
half the night for that. But that was pretty
Nice.
cool. But not where I was positioned for this. There was no rainbow.
nah, cool shot. I like it.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And I just saw Paige put on the chat, beautiful shot. So thank you for your comments on that, Paige. And yeah, I know I share that too. Just the tones throughout this one, and it works so well in the black and white. And you know, one thing, I used to live not too far from Yosemite, and go up there periodically now and then. And so many times when you see Yosemite, it's always the same things, right? It's Half Dome, or it's the valley view or tunnel view, and so forth and that. But it's nice to see some of these scenes that is so unique, because everybody goes to Yosemite, myself included, coming back with kind of some of the same things that everybody sees all the time. And this one right here, when you first look at it, you don't immediately think Yosemite. So I like the good eye for spotting something kind of unique in a place where there's so much of the obvious around you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really
was
like that
definitely-
you got like a true white point, a true black point. And it's really, although there's not a lot of tones in here, the shadow detail is just phenomenal. And it's really got a lot of interest with all those little streams of water coming down in different directions. It's really, really, really well put together.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's see, any other comments? All right, we'll move forward to the next one. David Weiss.
Yes.
again.
Yeah, this is at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, and go out there once a year with my wife around Mother's Day to take her to one of the restaurants in the hotel, and just love walking around the lake there. And this is on the opposite side. That's the actual Broadmoor there that's in the center of the picture there.
Yeah, this is nice. And the thing that I think makes this one here interesting is obviously the structure of the water, some of the detail that's in the back, and then also the just the framing, the way that you kind of found a spot within those trees to create that natural frame up and around the big part of the scene there. I guess the center, the large part of the Broadmoor building there, and that I think that looks really nice.
Thank you.
If you ever go there and it's raining out, I would recommend potentially getting your wife to hold a red umbrella next to one and stand next to one of those pillars there by the fence, and just add a person into the scene. I think it's a really nice image, and I really like the composition, but I think adding one single person with a little splash of color could really just make it pop a little bit more.
Right. Yep, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, great thought there, Darren.
But
Now I'm kind of looking at it, just thinking and imagining that being there.
Always take images with people and without people. Don't just take all with people, or
For the other, yeah.
No, that's a good thought.
Of course, the Broadmoor has green umbrellas.
Oh, there you go.
You'd have to bring your own red umbrella.
Yeah.
I think Darren, he specified bring your own, right?
Yeah.
Just carry a red umbrella in your car at all times. Is that the idea?
The red would contrast well with the green, so
Good
Yep.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah, good complementary colors.
definitely.
Yeah, David, that natural vignetting with the trees is really pleasing.
Cool. Thank you.
And it looks like it's all pretty in focus. I mean, meaning that the foreground and all the way back to the back. So I'm guessing it was a pretty small aperture, pretty tight aperture.
Yeah, it was f9. F9 on the aperture there. But yeah, so pleasing place to be. I could stay there every weekend.
Darren White.
So this image is a result of going 2 hours to shoot something else and not having the conditions I want. So I looked around for something that did catch my eye. So this is right up on the Wyoming, California, or Colorado border. There's a place off Frontage Road just before you get to Wyoming that has some rock formations. And I had this idea that I was going to go up there and shoot the sunset in the summer, and it looked like there was going to be clouds, and as I got closer and closer there was just no clouds, and which is how it always happens in Colorado. But anyway, it was hot. And so the mud was cracked. So I found this scene. I ended up shooting this whole area for a couple hours just because there was such cool mud cracks and detail and whatnot. And so this is probably, I'm going to say at least 10 or 12 images focus stacked to make sure that it's sharp all the way in the corners and the center. And because you're working at such close distance, if you were to focus on the top of one of the little rocks, the mud below it, and then the mud that's down even further might not be in focus. So instead of using f/22 and trying to get it all in focus, I decided to use a wider aperture and just do focus stacking. So this was kind of my first test into focus stacking, and now I pretty much do it exclusively. If you can get your camera to be perfectly level with the plane that you're shooting, it won't be too much of an issue. But you know, if your camera's tilted a little bit and the ground is straight or vice versa, and you have one side that's lower than the other side, you notice the out of focus or soft corners when you look at it with detail and you blow it up. So anyway, I just like the patterns of this and the rocks and the colors and the different cracks, and so I took some pictures.
No, it's interesting. And thanks for the story. So were you like straight above, or did you have to do this at an angle, and that's where the focus stacking came?
No, so my camera is straight above, looking straight down, but I can't tell with my camera if the camera is exactly parallel to the ground. And because you're working with shorter depth of field with a wider aperture, I just wanted to make sure that I used different focal points so that when I got home, I could take the images and I could stack them so that the whole thing would be sharp.
Yeah, it is all the way through down into the deeper parts of those cracks and that. And what's interesting there too is just like in the colors, the tones, and so forth, and that in the parts of the rocks or the mud. And then it looks like there's even like spots or areas of blue. I don't know if that's was kind of natural for that.
Yeah,
like turquoise type color in that, but it definitely adds a little splash, and the eyes kind of go across there, and that blue really pops.
Yeah, they're the different minerals in the rocks, but I find this is, I submitted this scene because for me personally, these are hard scenes to find good compositions in, I'm better with big giant landscapes, but these smaller scenes, you got to move around a lot, or and try to find lines, because there's so many lines and you don't want to cut lines off, or you want to make sure that the lines are going in the right direction that you want them to. So it is challenging, but it's fun. It's good to do when there's nothing else to shoot, I guess.
Yeah. And like you said, if the conditions weren't there for you as far as your traditional, large, wide landscapes and so forth, great eye to and experimentation to find something like this is great.
What was that?
Bruce said he doesn't see a person there with a red umbrella though.
No, but I could make a miniature one and put it down in the rack.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the.
Just for reference, this scene here is probably 4 inches wide by 3 inches tall.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a super small area.
Okay.
It's
It's funny because to the viewer that looks at that doesn't know that, it's hard to put into context the scale of that, right? It's hard. I mean, when I look at it, naturally, I immediately think it's probably, 6 feet by 8 feet or something like that.
No.
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 So you were, I don't know what lens you used, but down pretty close to it then to just capture it in that small of a space.
Yeah. And then with the focus stacking and everything, once it's all stacked, you crop it to make sure you get all the bad stuff out of it. And then So it makes it a little bit smaller, but yeah, this is a real small area.
Hey, Darren, did you stack that just through layers in Photoshop or another method?
Yeah, so the way that I do focus stacking is I just take various images at different focal points, and then I load them all into layers as Photoshop, and then I select them all. I choose auto align, and then once it aligns them, I choose auto blend, and I choose the stack mode, and it does a really good job. The only time I have issues is when you have like a blade of grass that's sticking up real close to you. It has a hard time differentiating between what's behind the grass and the grass. So, but for the most part, it works really well. But I'm still learning. I've got a good feel and a good grasp on it, and I really like to do it now when I go shooting. I do it pretty much all the time now. But not every scene works perfectly. So.
Yeah, I know some of the macro guys I follow, especially for insects and tiny little bugs, there's some programs out there that stack it. You ever tried any of those or?
I haven't, no.
Cool.
And the nice thing about doing that, and I should probably do it more frequently and incorporate that into my style too, is that when you get home, you can always, does the image work better as a focus stack to get everything in focus? And if not, you can just, maybe find the one that, that you don't need to do that with, and that ends up being your image. But it never hurts to take too many images and take a lot of the focus stacking ones just in case. Then you end up with something like this. Whereas if you just go there and shoot the 1 or 2 shots or whatever in that, you don't have that option. So at least by doing that, you get back and you have options as to whether is it going to look better as a focus stacked image or just a single image.
I will say that when you focus stack, even if it's on a landscape and you got a foreground, a middle ground, and a sky, even when you focus stack, if you can get that first focus right at the closest point at the bottom of your camera, where whatever's in the frame, and then do at least a middle one and then do one for the sky, you would be surprised at how well it helps. I've always been a hyperfocal guy. I've always used hyperfocal for most of my landscapes, and it works really well. But once you start doing focus stacking, you can see a noticeable difference. And the focus stacking, when you get it right, it pretty much eliminates most all of the noise that there may be, like if you boost shadows and things like that, just because it's only taking the sharpest part of the image and blending it together. So I'd be happy to show the club some before and afters and side-by-side comparisons, because it's kind of eye-opening. It takes a little bit more time, but it's, depending on what you're going to do with your images, I think it's worth it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, and an idea for a presentation for sure. Thank you. David Weiss.
Yes. Yeah, this is a Porsche club race this last summer at High Plains Raceway. And I was just kind of trying to learn how to show motion in the image of the car going by. So it wasn't just a quick image where you can't see the tires rotating and everything. So I was doing it with the slow shutter speed at, let's see, it was 1/100th of a second with ISO 400. And my aperture was f/20, and it's a Nikon D3 I was using with this.
David, I think you did a really excellent job of capturing the motion. You could see how you got a bunch of detail on the car, just intact, sharp focus, and you really get the illusion of speed. But as a version of this, I think it might even be more exciting that if you had more of a pano crop.
Okay.
So cut off a lot of the bottom and a lot of the top. What bothers me is that bottom right corner where you see a triangle.
Yep.
And you can get your eye caught down there.
Okay.
And of course, if you added a little bit of extra canvas in front of the car to show where it's going instead of really balanced. It might be just a tinge better, but
Okay.
I'm so impressed with the, panning with the cars is so difficult. I've tried this for many years and I'm not sure I've gotten that much of a car in focus. It's just fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
shot
yeah,
lots
the
of
panning,
pictures.
the panning technique takes a little bit of practice. I try it here and there myself. But to get something that's moving that fast, I think you said shutter speed of 1/100th of a second
Yes.
is, and especially with the as fast as I'm sure this thing was traveling, that's a really good job. And just that contrast of that versus, again, the speed of it really shows with what we see with the blurring of everything outside of that moving
Great,
car.
thank you.
It's great. Keith Thurman.
I don't think he's here.
I keep thinking you guys are saying Keith Urban. Like,
I think Keith,
Bring him
I
on.
think Keith is the guy in Arkansas, right?
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like he's not here, but maybe next month we'll get Keith Urban out and he'll
I want to know who
Get him.
Calvin is.
submitting some images.
That might be affordable housing in Boulder or something like that.
Not in Boulder.
Yeah, so I mean, again, if we're going to put some of the story, and these images are tough for me, but you can tell as Bruce just pointed out, there's a story here just in terms of that environment, chairs around it. To me, I don't know that it needs as much of the scenes around it, and how much those things add to it, other than just showing that it's in
A pasture.
an environment that has open grasses and trees and right there by power lines and so forth and that. So I mean, for me, maybe a little bit busy. There's a couple of the leaves that kind of hang off on the right side that I don't know if it makes sense to crop it down to where those are out or eliminate those. And then maybe it's to me, but maybe just a little bit more cropping and kind of bring that story a little bit closer in view. But again, that's just sort of my thoughts. I think I know there's certainly a story to be told as far as what that living environment must be.
I think that this trailer thing, I think it has a lot of potential.
Oh, sorry. I'll go back to it.
No, that's okay. I was just saying, I think it has a lot of potential. Like, I think you could really set up a scene with the grocery cart, the chair, add a person or two. I think, I don't know. I kind of like it. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm kind of struggling. There's a, oops. Can we go back, Michael?
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. There you go. Sorry. about
Okay,
that.
there we go. I see, at least on my monitor, there seems to be a line or a path, a lightened portion of the grass that is leading me from the front of the image all the way back to the fence. And if that's it would be nice if that line was on more of a diagonal going right to the trailer, and that wouldn't be almost like a pathway, that it was a well-worn path to this shack, trailer, whatever it may be. It may add a little bit more interest and certainly focus in on what the subject matter is, rather than taking us out of the image. Because
Yeah, it takes you right to the fence.
It takes you. Yeah. Thank you for the comments. And now that I take a look at it, I see what you're saying is that So you usually look for the leading line to bring you to the point of interest
Right.
in the image, which obviously would be the structure and kind of in that
But
right
that
middle
could be, that could
section.
be easily created. You could easily create that in this image because it has a nice story. I mean,
Mhm.
it just needs to be brought out, I think, a little bit more and cropped.
Well, right. That was sort of my thoughts too, is I think there is a story in there, and maybe it is just a matter of cropping and maybe having shot it at a little bit different angle or something like that too. Maybe where like that pool that's up there. And again, I don't know the surroundings if you have the ability to take it from a different angle, but to where that the largest pole in the background isn't sticking straight off of there, but maybe there's a way, an angle to come out that doesn't have that popping out there. All right. Susan, you're up there.
This image, and as well as the next two images, I took in London when I was there in October, and I was very excited to get away during a pandemic and shoot. And my intention was to shoot this in a series, and the next two are perhaps part of this series. But to shoot in a city that is so vibrant, but in another way, not to shoot it in a very what's been done before. And I was very intrigued with all the reflections and the layering that was happening within these images, but I was very stuck. So these three images, I haven't touched them since October. I did some global edits. I haven't cropped them. I'm not sure where to go with them. And I'm just looking for some feedback from the group here.
You want to try and get all three of them together?
Yeah. Let's see here. Dave Purcell just suggested that we show all three of them and then kind of come back and we do them individually to kind of see what, like you said, if there's a series. Yeah, they're all
three of them.
in
So put them,
succession, so.
select them all and then put them in the compare. Oops. You want to select them all and put them in compare?
Yeah, 1 second. Is that just to get all three of them?
Get out of go into library up top. See up top, go to library or hit L. And then you get to compare. Oh, sorry, L gives you light. Sorry, never mind. Hit L again and L again. And there you go.
So if I highlight all three of them, you don't just
but go to library at the top, see where it says library. You've got to be out of the develop mode.
You need to go to develop, not to, you need to be in a library mode. not
It's where all the Zoom stuff is taking up space.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think you could hit G or E. That'll take you into the library. G for sure will take you in there. There you go. Now you see you've got the fourth one over is you can show all three of them together.
Okay.
And then you can do shift tab to get to, or you might be able to do full screen. Hit F. I'm not sure if F will get you full screen or not.
No?
Nope. You'll have to go back and do a shift tab to get rid of the sidebars and everything. So shift tab it.
All these Lightroom things that I don't use all the time.
There you go.
Okay, sorry. All right, I think we got there. So yeah, you can see all three of them there. So did you want to like explain the sequence? Like
they're not in any specific order. They were all shot at the same location. And I'm actually, I think it's probably more representative in the last one. I'm shooting actually into or through a glass of an elevator shaft that is reflecting the city within it. And I think you could see that the shaft more on the third image at the very top. And I just kind of hung out there for quite a while and kept shooting as people kept walking by and the scene kept emerging. And you can see the cathedral in the background, I don't know what that is, the mesh grating that was in the front, part of the elevator shaft, the gentleman in the second picture is looking down almost in penance over by the cross that's there, the people walking. I just thought I was just very taken with the layers of the contrast in the city and just those reflections. But I was just having a very hard time deciding about cropping and what to show. And every time I was thinking of cropping one way, it was cropping out portions that I didn't want to crop out. So it's open for discussion.
I'm a big fan of travel photography and street photography, and it's really clear you have a really, really amazingly layered story. The one in the far right, where you can see nearby things, you can see the people walking on the, I don't know if that's a railing or elevator or escalator or whatever, and you see the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral in the back.
Mhm.
It's really, really, really cool. I like that the overall tone is blue, but you know, there's a couple reflections of buildings in the background that have a warmer tone. And I think perhaps if you accentuated the warmer tones, then you'd have a contrast of the warm and then the cool, or just play with your white balance in general to see if something really stands out. I saw Paige saying that she thought trying these in black and white might be a really great version as well. But the layered story is really, really interesting. Like most people just take a shot of the city, and you've taken the good tack of trying to get a lot of reflections and stuff. So I really like it.
I did
Yeah,
try
and-
it in black
Kind of
and
like
white.
the point that I raised earlier on the Yosemite Falls photo. Again, London, there's the iconic shots that most of us that have been there have, the large, big city scenes, specific buildings, but you see the whole thing and so forth in that. So I agree. I think it's really interesting to see some of these ones where it's very unique. You don't, of everybody that goes to London and so forth, it's very unusual but unique, and I think fascinating to see something that's different from what we normally see from there. And I think you captured it really well here with these.
If you look in the second picture, you can actually see
Again, the
shooting.
lines, as Dave said, I was going to say the same thing. The tones, I think, and those tones come across in all of these ones. The blues and that, I think has that nice, cool look to it. And
Any
as he mentioned,
suggestions in the
Paige
crop for
brought up
this?
the question about what would these look like in black and white. If I can get these things
It's a
back.
V.
Hit
I
what?
think
What's
V,
it?
V is in Victor, maybe.
Will that do it to all of them? or
It
is that-
might, it might. I haven't tried it that way. Try it. Yep.
I think
one.
it kind of lost. The first one looked okay in black and white, but I'm not sure the others do, but we could play with it and certainly look.
So there's the first
Yeah,
one.
there. When I just hit that, it only applied it to that first one. It's probably the way to do it to all of them. But at least this way we can kind of get a sense of what that one looks like in black and white. And I think it looks great both ways.
So what are you thinking with your crops, Susan? I mean, you say these are uncropped, or is that what you're looking for suggestions?
No, there was just very, very minimal kind of cropping that I was playing with, but they're certainly not done. I don't know really what to do for an example, on the second one, some of the feedback I received in the second picture, I'm actually in it in the bottom. You can see me shooting. Some people said, that's cool, keep it, bring it out more. Some people said, take it away. I don't see where there would be a natural place to crop this, or a natural place to crop any of them, to be honest with you. I'm really just struggling with that.
I would try flipping them, left and right, even horse up and down, like upside down, and just see what you get. Because, with all the lines and colors and shapes, like invert this one. If you hit the shift key in the bracket bar, I think it's shift or no, it's command bracket, you can flip this, rotate it clockwise counterclockwise.
Command bracket.
Bracket, I believe it's command bracket. Yeah, and so you can see you get different perspective as you flip it and get what you do what you like this one, that one, now you've got them, you just kind of play with them that way. It's not really none of these images are going to support, I would say, traditional cropping and stuff because they're so unique. So I'd say just play with them and maybe even you blend them together in Photoshop. I don't know. There's probably, you can do these things probably 7 ways from Sunday and then come back and do them again a different way and probably still find some neat, unique views from it. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, these are
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing these ones. Those are great.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Keith Thurman.
Keith Thurman, who I believe isn't still here.
Yeah, he's the guy from.
Wow.
Probably that there's a railing on the right, probably could be cropped out, and then that little piece on the left. That benefits.
Yeah, just either just on the edges,
Just on the edges. Just on the edges.
I really like how she's looking off and up, and you don't know who she's looking at or what she's looking at, and light on her face is really lovely. Personally, I would like to see a little bit more negative space, and it's all, certainly up to your own decision, but I would take away those pillows. I would get rid of them.
And they do kind of pull away from the main subject because they got a lot of patterns on them.
Yeah, the pillows may be a little bit distracting. But aside from those, the other color tones in that, the red with the blue, and I think all that looks good.
And the trim on the wall goes right through her head.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's anything you can do about it in that particular scene. Just kind of, it just happens to be at that level. And
yeah, you'd have to just clone it out, but you shoot up at her. I don't know. It's just hard, but the picture is great. I mean, it's a great portrait.
Yeah, the thing really benefits from the Rembrandt lighting. You can see like a triangle below her left eye because the light's coming in from the top left towards her. So you're getting broad light here. In other words, the shadow on her face is what you mostly see. So and she has a thin enough face to support that. But you're getting that really nice little triangle like a Rembrandt painting. But yeah, the background's a little bit distracting. Everything, like Bruce said, that bar through her head and the pillows and the lamp on the left. So there are some cropping things and maybe a little Photoshop or two, but in general, with a really nice emotion that they have there.
I'd like to know where she got those stockings.
Hey,
Send Keith an email.
Are you guys showing this more than full screen? I don't see any of the stuff on the sides you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we can see it on our screen.
so,
No, I could.
yeah, so Darren, just on the sides, we were talking about, there's like a edge of a lampshade or something, like, or the window
That little blue curtain?
Yeah.
covering
Just
Oh,
right
okay.
over there.
over on the left, and then the right-hand side, there's just a little bit of a, whatever, kind of a railing
Oh,
that comes
okay.
up,
I
maybe
had
4
the-
bars up.
I had the gallery view blocking it, sorry. It's all good.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for the comments.
This is one of my wives.
Caroline.
She's not here to talk about it. So there were a lot of birds. There was a lot of birds in Africa.
Oh, okay.
Lots of birds. This is one of 10,000, I'm sure. So, it was, oh God, we looked it up. And now I can't remember what it was. I apologize. But it looks like it's got a mohawk. Pretty common bird. This was at the hotel we were staying at. There was a bunch of bushes out front. We sat there and drank beer and took pictures of birds.
So Bruce was saying that there were a lot of drank beer and took pictures of birds just right outside of the hotel that they were staying at. in Africa. But yeah, I like the tones of it. It looks like nice and sharp. I can't tell is, maybe there's a little bit of noise kind of in some of the background in that, unless if that's just part of the processing or if that's part of if there's a texture back there or something.
There was
like that.
there was a field and trees and stuff behind there.
Okay.
It's better if really clear.
Yeah. The subject is nice and in focus and then pops out against the out of focus background. So it's good.
That's another one of hers.
Okay.
Little hummingbird. And you can see it was just like a green lawn behind it. Probably needs to take the background down a little bit, but as far as the brightness.
As far as the brightness and make the subject pop a little bit. But as far, once again, the depth of field looks nice and sharp. But when you look at the beak, and that is nice and sharp. And right on the same focal point as the focal plane, I should say, is the plant that's below it. And definitely that pops against whatever that background does or whatever in that. But no, that's a nice shot.
It's so easy with these images now to the Lightroom just to mask that and look in the background.
Yeah, she didn't do much. I know she hasn't manipulated the background or anything much. So
it's pretty much just almost straight out of camera.
yeah,
just looking at
I
them
know
all.
she's done some processing in terms of highlights and shadows and stuff, but
Uh-huh.
he hasn't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
I haven't upgraded her Lightroom yet because she still struggles with the old version. So I'm like, I'll upgrade you when I'm ready to teach you how it works. It takes a little bit to learn the new stuff, but it's pretty easy.
Yeah. Some of the new stuff in Lightroom is pretty slick when it comes to, as Karina was talking about, some of the masking and some of the features that used to only be available in Photoshop. They still are maybe a little bit more powerful in Photoshop, but it sure makes it a lot easier if you can do it in Lightroom.
That's one of mine.
Nice.
So obviously we're in the savannah, and it was funny because it wasn't.
Is your voice up? Is your voice going
I
through
don't know,
that?
can everybody hear me, or
Yeah.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So it was, it'd go from 60-ish in the morning to 90 in the day, 90s. So the animals were all trying to find shade, and if you've never been there, which I hadn't been there, obviously, there's trees here and there, but it's pretty plain. It's pretty spread out. So shade is at a premium. I like the trees. The clouds were cool. There's wildebeest under the tree. I think there's this is all wildebeest, no zebras. But again, looking at it, is the crop good? Is the black and white processing good? Just looking for some input from everybody.
So, hey, Bruce, first thing that you need to do is straighten the horizon.
Is it crooked?
It looks like it's tilting down to the right.
Okay.
And then I know that you can't fix this now, but just be aware of it if you were to ever go back to this location. You see that mountain that's behind or to the bottom of the branch on the left-hand side?
Yeah, I see it now.
You have that covered up. You could frame that with the branches really nice and really accentuate that. Just by moving over a little bit, one way or the other, just find a real nice spot, and it wouldn't change the composition that much of the tree, but the level horizon and not block the mountain. But I like the tones.
Yeah, the clouds, even though the subject is in the middle, it's not like a rule of thirds, but this one here, I think this works better than trying to push that off on one side or the other, and that to me anyways. But I'm trying to see on that horizon.
I actually ran it through color or Silver Effects Pro,
right?
And I think I picked gotta remember what I picked. It was like a contrast structure, something like that. I was just clicking buttons, and it's like, yep, that's the one I like, because the grasses were real yellow, and of course the trees were real green, and we tweaked it a little bit here and there, and it popped it the way I wanted it popped. So
And in nature, I assume that those trees are green, and I
Yeah.
mean, your color version of this is.
Yeah. The color was
that-
okay. And I cropped it that way because on the left-hand side, I actually had part of another tree. And I couldn't get the whole tree, and the way I looked
Yeah.
through all my images, and I had shot it to where I had just cut that tree off. So it was like, I don't really want to clone. I guess I could clone it out and give it a little more room to the left, but the right's about where it was, but the left, there was a little tree over there. So
Yeah, it has a lot of the nice range in the tones and that throughout. I mean, as far as what I see, and it's nice that you did have the clouds in there. I think that really adds to.
yeah, we had some good clouds.
The rain.
We got rain only once, and the rest of the time we got clouds were real dramatic, but we never got rained on. It was nice when it did rain though. It cooled it off about 20 degrees.
Great shot. I like that a lot.
That's one of mine too. This is what they call what is it? A purple breasted roller. And again,
Wait a
just
minute.
looking at it, you know, it's not been, I've cropped it a bit, but I haven't tried to overprocess. I did select subject and darken the background down a little bit. And I guess I can see a green fringe now that I'm looking at it. So
Yeah,
it needs
this is an amazing shot. I mean, I love the
Yeah.
colors and the detail, but why is there a laptop screen in the eye of it? Is that yours that you're showing this on?
what's that now?
In the eye, there's a laptop screen.
No, it's actually a reflection of the scene behind us. I mean, the highlight behind us, because he was in a tree. We were probably 10 feet away from him. And I did nothing to the eyes. I did.
But
I might have.
how is there a laptop screen facing the bird, showing a reflection?
I see what you're saying, but what it could be a reflection of is I look. You know what? It's the top of the Land Cruiser we're sitting in. And we all stand up, and so the sky is behind us, and then you're seeing all the structure of the Land Cruiser screen.
Okay, I see it
Right,
now.
when you look at it, it's because
Yep.
it looks very man-made, and that's exactly what it is.
Okay, I see it now. On my screen, it looks like a laptop, and I'm like,
Yeah, that's because it's
like,
got a square
what?
shape to it.
How did you do that?
Yeah, we just put him in front of the laptop, said, take
Yeah.
the picture.
Use FaceTime, take the picture.
And I can see now on my screen that I've got some green issues with some fringe when I darken the background. I'll need to fix that.
No, it looks really good, Bruce. It's
Thanks,
nice
Ed.
seeing your images.
Yeah, the colors, the details, and the like in the, I'll say the purple part that's kind of in that, whatever part you call that
Did
below
you
the
use
jaw,
some noise
the bird
reduction
and so
on
forth.
this?
I like the little light streaks, the white pieces that come down out of that.
And I think these
Amongst
birds
all
were
that
paid
purple.
because he sat on that branch for, I don't know, as long as we wanted to take pictures. He did not move. He didn't care about us.
And as you pointed out, that if you did the, if it was in Lightroom and you did the masking and you have a little bit of that fringing that's on the edges, maybe the way to, and again, that's one of, when we talk about like, you know, Lightroom with its masking, it's still not quite as like with, if you do it in Photoshop, you can use the refine edge tool, and then you can have like refine hair or whatever, and that maybe that cleans that up a
Yeah.
little bit, but otherwise it looks the same.
Because I did do the Lightroom subject select, and then I darkened the background quite a bit. So I can see that didn't work quite as well. I'll have to tweak it.
You can do a little work on eyes, and what I found is that just brightening up your eye just a little bit, and bringing the blacks down, so you have the black in your.
Okay,
dark, really
I'll have to
makes
try
it
that. Oh, and this is, I think this is one of mine. These are high rocks. They look like marmots, for lack of a better word. They live in the rocks. They're about, you know, the size of a rabbit. And it was so funny because this pile, if one of them moved, they all kind of scooted. Like if one of them twisted a little bit, the whole pile would scoot. And we have, all of us have pictures of these because we were all sitting along the road taking pictures. And they're all these, they're all in different shapes. Like you see the one guy laying on the bottom, like dog piled, and then there was one on top. They are food for hawks and eagles, because they're on the rocks and they'll come down and scoop them up.
So you
But
don't want to be that one on top.
no, I don't think, I think that's got drew the short straw.
It's like our cousin to the gerbil.
Yeah. And again, crop, maybe it's cropped too tight. I have some room. They're obviously, they look like the rocks, and I can see where I should have taken some of the grass out of the back too. It looks like that green blade, maybe.
I mean, it looks great. You maybe some of those lighter blades of grass in the background are a little bit distracting, the ones that comes, out of them. But it's one of those kind of scenes. There's just not a whole lot you can do about that in terms of camera, right?
Yeah, yeah. And again, as I was processing, I've looked at 15,000 images now. My eyes are starting to cross, and I'm like, oh, this one's good.
No, I like that though.
It's another nice thing with that masking works really good.
Yeah,
You can change it.
And make the background a little bit more blurry or something like that, or darker or whatever it might be.
yeah. I'll have to try that because I really didn't do much just other than crop it and adjust some of the shadows and tones and stuff. I spent a lot of time on the bird, but not much on this one because I wasn't sure if it was worth doing a whole lot too.
Yeah.
And then I took yours, the Topaz Studio. So this is like the charcoal brush. And because I have a million pictures of these gazelles, and it was like, okay, but with the grass, and it was real distracting. And I thought, okay, did this improve it? Is it worse, better? I mean, did you like the process? I mean, just kind of overall, did I make it better or is it worse? Too tight a crop, whatever, let me know.
I think it looks like a colored pencil drawing. I really like it.
And that's what it's supposed to be. And I didn't want it too, I wanted it to look kind of realistic, but again, it's just one of those Topaz Studio filters.
Yeah.
And I was pretty happy with the results.
And I think it looks good.
Vignette on the corners? Okay, that's a good idea.
But I like the effect of it because, like I said, again, it's you I'm sure have a whole bunch of pictures, great pictures of gazelles and animals and so forth. But this one, when you first look at it, it's like it looks different. It looks great, but it looks different. And then your eyes kind of go around and say, and especially like some of that background and that what the what that effect did to some of that background. Again, it's nice and blurry back up. I'm kind of looking at more in the like what's up above and to the sides or whatever. And in this image, to me, it really makes that gazelle pop out. And I don't know how that if it popped out to the same level in its natural.
No, because they're all it's
kind of blended into
yeah,
the
because they're
background.
brown and the grass is brown. They just kind of blend in.
But here it pops out in a way that probably would have been tough to get with just the standard processing. So I think it looks different but great.
Crop's okay. Too tight, not enough in front, back. Just curious.
I mean, to me, it's okay. There's room to the left, right, which is the room over to the side. Plus, you have the engagement of it looking towards you, which is nice, as opposed to looking over out to, I'll say, the left or whatever. I think there's a lot of good things about it.
Okay. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Okay,
Jim
this-
Stombaugh.
Yeah, this is mine. This was a sunset, and I was doing a panorama of it, and I could see this line in the cloud there. And when I got it back on the computer and blew everything up, then I finally figured out what it was. And it's the sun was below the horizon, and that's a contrail. You can see the jet at the very end, and then it's actually casting the shadow up on the cloud up above it.
Oh, cool.
And tweaked it a little bit in Lightroom because the whole sky was kind of a real bright gray and all. And so kind of played around with it, but that was kind of unique. So.
Yeah, that's real cool.
And what was it you said that created the, where your eyes obviously go to that vertical line? What was the?
That's a contrail, a jet contrail. So you can see the little silver dots, the jet, and then to the left of it is the shadow that's being cast by the contrail up on the cloud above it. Yeah.
Right.
It's really cool. Especially
yeah.
once you tell us what it is.
And the colors of it, right. And again, it's one of those ones that has that artistic look to it that when you look at it, you try and figure out what's going on. But the tones, the colors, the shapes within that cloud, and then it has some of the support from some of the other clouds. But I think it looks neat.
Thanks.
Did you zoom in quite a bit? The only comment I had, I love the cloud. I love the contrast in colors. The composition looks great, but I do see pixelation in the blues. So I'm kind of just wondering about that.
Yeah, I had to crop a fair amount to even get that to show up real well. So
It's good abstract.
Right.
Yeah, that color.
Yeah. Rotate it. Try rotating that one. That one's could be.
What was
cooling.
the
Control or command and bracket,
that's right.
left to right bracket. We'll flip it. There you go. It's a paintbrush. That's an eyebrow.
yeah,
That's a mustache.
Yeah, great shot. Thank you for sharing that.
thanks.
Now, this is one of my wives. We were playing with the double exposure feature in the Z7. So she was just messing around.
Okay, so this is two images that
Yeah.
were
I don't
in
know.
camera, brought them together, and
And I don't know if you've ever tried the double exposure setting in the Z7, or I think Canons have it too. It's kind of cool, and especially the Z7 with the electronic viewfinder, because you take the first image and then you see the pose.
I have not
as
tried
you're
that.
looking to place your second image, so you can position your first image exactly where you want it, as opposed to film days when you're like, well, I think it's in this corner, and you take the picture, and then you get home, it's like, oh, the moon was over here. Anyway, so she was just playing with double exposures. We went to the Tagawa Gardens thing, and
Yeah. I wish I could have made it to that. And I think Terry set that one up. But no, this is neat. And so that was like a natural flower back behind it, and then she.
Yeah, they had poinsettias all over the
Poinsettias, yeah.
place. And then so she took a picture of the poinsettia and then took a picture of this thing in front of it. We got to play more with it because you can adjust the double exposure settings in the camera so much. Of course, you obviously can do some Lightroom too, or Photoshop, but it's kind of fun to do it in camera because then you get your stuff where you want it. I don't know.
Question real quick. So when you do that in camera, do you come back with two images? Will it create that? I mean, can you change the opacity for each one in the same way that you would if you tried to do it? Pictures,
Yeah, you
brought them
can
in.
kind of in their camera. There's some settings,
Okay.
but if you wanted, I mean, I'm trying to remember if you get two images because the camera actually processes and puts this together.
Okay.
And I can't remember if it separates them as well, but I can't remember. Now.
Right. So like if you opened it in Photoshop, it's going to have just the one image that has them combined as opposed to two separate images.
I think they get combined. So
and that makes sense. That would make so the
it's
double
camera
exposure be in
process.
camera. That would make sense if it does that. I think that's interesting. That's good. That's creative. So this is one of mine. This was a few weeks ago. Cold morning. I think it was 7 degrees out in Boulder. So where this was out in Boulder. It's the Sawhill Ponds. And when I went there that morning, this isn't what I had intended. I was going to try and get from there. You have views of like the Flatirons, but from further back and that. So I got some of those. But then when I got home, I sort of like more like this one here. There was, again, with the cold temperatures, got a little bit of that fog effect that was coming off, even though it was ice. There were a couple areas that had open water, and I think that's what was kind of driving some of the fog that was coming up. And so I just got down really low, and then I cropped. When I first took it, I have like a reflection of those trees down on the ice, and so there's more in the foreground. But then as I looked at it, that really wasn't adding that much to the image, so I went ahead and cropped a lot of that part of it out, and that's what I ended up with.
I wonder, the trees on the left, since you can tell that there's a depth to this photo and they kind of go around and back.
Right.
I wonder if you purposely blurred it or used the dehaze filter and made it the opposite way and actually hazed it and made it a little bit more foggy. If with that, then you have one subject with the tree, the big tree in the front.
Sure.
And then, I like the way it is now. I'm just kind of wondering if there would be another version where you're really emphasizing the depth and the.
And created a more blurry, foggy, whatever you might want to call it, over there on that left side where it maybe even looks like it's then even a little bit further intense. And this, the tree off to the right was closer to me than those ones over to the left.
And maybe to a white vignette on it as opposed to a black vignette. So you could take some of the corners out a little bit too.
It's also cool. It's got a lot of magentas in it. There's even a hint of magenta through the clouds.
There was some color naturally in that sky right
You
there.
just bump the magenta white out.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I mean, like I said, I think I'm really pleased the way this is. It's really fantastic. Like you can do 3 or 4 different versions where you tweak it just a little bit. Then you can really bring out the red magentas in the foreground and then maybe through the clouds as well.
Right. Give it a little bit more of that.
It's cool. It's
Color.
very experienced.
Oh, thanks. Let's see. So this is another one of mine. My brother and I, a couple of weeks ago, went up to the Deckers area to do some fly fishing. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend going out and fishing in December and January at sunrise, but
A little chilly.
prepare to have your hands get cold. But anyways, this is when we first parked. We got there like kind of right as the sun was rising, and so I saw the color up there. So I told him, I said, well, before we pull out the fly rods and freeze, let me try and get a picture. So I had my tripod with me. I put the tripod in the water. I didn't have my waders yet, so I couldn't wade further out into the stream, which would have been further to the right there. I just had this like just a couple of feet off the side of the edge. And all I did was just try to, grab. I got some that were horizontal, but there really wasn't that much. It was more just kind of the sky to the further to the right. Really, there wasn't that much going on over there. So I put it vertically, and this is what I ended up with. I think it was a 1.5 second exposure. So there's a little bit of blur there to the water, but not
The water looks cool.
not a full blur that it would be with a really long exposure. But again, I was when I saw the sky and I saw some of the reflection coming down of the colors on that. That was sort of my objective in that. So.
I've been fly fishing longer than I've been more intently into photography, but since I've been in photography, I'd never go to Deckers without taking my camera. Some of my favorite images have come from the Deckers area. It's a lot of really good compositions you can find there.
No, thank you. And there are plenty of different compositions there in that. I need to get back out there, but and if you're going to ask how the fishing was, depends on who you ask. If you ask me, I like hook 3 and lost them. If you ask my brother, he landed like several of them. So,
Yeah, Deckers is very tough. Deckers is tougher for fishing than it is for photography, in my experience.
Right. Still a fun morning.
Absolutely, nice shot.
Okay, so this is one of my wife's. The neighbors had put these pumpkins out there, and she looked over, and the squirrels were making a meal out of them. So, yep. So, I don't know. She has some where she's just got the squirrel on the pumpkin, and this one's with the pumpkin. So, I don't know. Comments, questions?
Yeah, no, it looks good. I mean, the squirrel sort of blends into the back. It's sort of light back up, I'll say like above its head and kind of off to that side. And that's what it sort of blends in. But I like the positioning of the squirrel. The fact that it was sitting right there on the top of that pumpkin is kind of something you don't see every day. So I like, and not to mention is it's kind of a unique looking pumpkin, the one that it chose to stand on.
Yeah, they picked the wart pumpkin.
Right.
So would you crop it differently or would you, I mean, do you go from the squirrel to that other pumpkin and then it's kind of, you move off the subject because that other pumpkin's so much bigger or?
There is a lot of negative space that you don't need at the top, I'd say.
Okay.
Crop it right here, rid of the other one.
You know what she might also do is flip that, huh? Because then the leading line would go the other direction. Flip it, and I bet that would change the whole perspective.
That was command.
Man in bracket, yeah,
bracket.
by the P. One more. Oop. Oh.
There's another.
We have to
one.
flip
It's a
horizontally.
different-
Sorry, it's a different one. We have to flip horizontally. That's up, and don't think there's a shortcut key for that. It's up in the, anyway, we'll try that at home. Don't try this at home, kids.
Then back to the mask. Right above.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
It's to make the square pop up. And to your point, just because that other pumpkin is a little bit brighter, especially like kind of where the sun is hitting the
Yeah.
left side of it, the eyes maybe tend to go to that. Or my eyes do.
Yeah, I do. I
Maybe
find
go
myself
a little bit more towards that, and all of a sudden, and because it's larger, it kind of becomes a bigger. I mean, it becomes maybe a little bit of a distraction. The
Yeah.
eyes kind of see that as the subject versus what you're trying to make the subject. But
Yeah, I think you're more like losing the wild. You're gonna block the wall.
Okay.
He's out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, she's got some different crops, so she could
Sure.
definitely crop just on him.
He's got who's gonna live there?
so this was one of mine, a little bit different than my normal photos in that. So this one, I had some friends that asked. They just had a newborn first week of December, so they asked me if just that week right after Christmas I could do some photos. So this, yeah, and I took several others in that, but this one was, it was a bright window back behind them, and they asked for that. I thought, well, okay, you're going to silhouette. So I was able to do it in a way that, it is, a bright window back behind them. Naturally, it had a lot of silhouette effects to it, but I was able to bring out some of the, enough of the detail in that, I thought, to create this. So again, something, not something I do frequently, but something I decided to go give a try at.
That looks really cool. I like this one. And did you use a reflector or anything to try and get light back into him?
I did not use a reflector. I did not. So you're right. That probably, if I really wanted to try to do it in a way with the sun coming in out of the window, a reflector probably could have pushed a little bit more light in there rather than me trying to do it artificially.
But it's cool. I like. I mean, there's like S curves in there, and it's just the balance, and I don't know. It's got a lot of emotion in it. You can.
Right.
It really
Right.
tells a story. Like they're all connected. It's a family. They all love each other, kind of thing.
It's interesting, you can have people together, but they don't look like they're in an intimate relationship unless they're actually touching, and this one has that. So it really shows the emotion, like Bruce said. It's really nice. And then the baby's head is kind of framed under the father's chin. So that's another little bonus you have there. It's
Yeah, you kind of have like dad's the protector and mom's the
Yeah.
nurturing mother kind of thing, because he's, the baby's under him, and it's very cool. You should patent that pose. Copyright it.
There you go. And to be honest, I didn't ask them to pose that way. They just did that naturally. So I'll give them the credit for that.
Well, come on, tell them you directed them hours of time.
That wasn't my doing. And
I like the unconventional crop, actually. I don't know.
I was thinking that too, but if you got the top of his head, you get more over her head, and I think it would be like negative space that would just kind of draw away from. Really, it's all dead center. It's where the three people are connecting.
So I'll a little bit of so Dave was asking, or Karina was asking if it should have more, meaning the total of the head, the total of that. That's the way I shot it, actually, is the way that Karina was describing. This was a crop, and I'll be honest, I had run this one by somebody who judged for us before, Troy Miller, and he saw that one. It was his suggestion. He said, I would crop right at the top of the forehead, or within the forehead of father over here on the side. He sort of gave me some of the suggestions on this crop versus the crop that I had, which, once I included, both of their entire heads and, further up to the top, there was a lot of light and distracting space, things that you could see through those windows and that you can't necessarily see through this one. So I sort of went with his suggestion on making this crop, but that's not the way I shot it.
No, it looks good. It's good. Ooh,
Darren.
Thanksgiving dinner. Darren took a potty break.
No, I just wanted to unmute. So this is Seafoam. I shot this last week in Oregon, the super high tides, and it's just that time of year where we get a lot of seafoam, and the seafoam it's super, super thick. So it's like, think of tapioca pudding, but without the tapioca. It's like really thick. So it doesn't move as fast as water. The water is underneath it. And this is the real thick foam that's on top, like a coffee creamer foam, and so it does move around, and it does, hit rocks, and it does make shapes and things, but this is, I think, 1,000th of a second. You can freeze the motion. And like, I probably have 200 of these images, just the water in different positions. And so I basically just uploaded this one just to show you guys. I'm going to take a guess and say there's probably some people in the room that have never seen seafoam. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
And I've seen seafoam, but not like this. When I think of the seafoam as, bubbles within water, kind of tell what it is. When I first saw this, and I knew you were in Oregon recently, so I was trying to figure out, is this something that was at the ocean, and you just described what it is? But there's so much, when you say foam, there's so much white to it, and I normally think of foamy water as
bubbly,
as larger bubbles, and you kind of
Right.
automatically see what it is right away.
This
and then
is
when
like,
I saw this one here, it almost looks like
this is just like super creamy,
or very thick milk or something like that.
Yeah. Like think of
it didn't strike me as
cream
being
off of a milk from the cow right out of the farm.
Yeah. Jeff Woodward asked what focal length. Do you remember what focal length this was?
It's either 105 or about 400. I don't know. I cropped in some, so I don't remember what lens I was using.
You hit F and then I. You might if it's dead metadata is there. Hit I again.
400 millimeter.
Yeah. So I was just standing up on some rocks, shooting down. But what's really interesting, like I could literally just watch the sea foam all day long. But what's interesting is if you look at the very bottom on the left-hand side, you can see how smooth it is. And the foam is like it's not going into it. It's like coming over the top of it. Like it's like if you folded eggs, egg whites, like if you're going to make a meringue or something, that's kind of what this is like.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And so when you freeze the motion, it just looks like it's on, it's all solid on top of each other. I don't know. It's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it said 1/1000th of a second, and it really captured the detail on all those little pieces that are moving within it. I mean, you can feel the motion just looking at it. You can tell there's a lot going on, which is
like there's a lot of tension. Like something's gonna happen. But
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, just something fun and different.
How many people have left? I think we're getting towards the end. I knew mine were like
30. Yeah. So
I think we're pretty close.
This is Jeff. I've been studying the photography of Michael Kennan, the great British minimalist photographer, and that's what my intention was here. it's a far cry from Michael Kenna, but that's what I was trying to do. And I don't like the contrail too much on the left-hand side. I'd like to try to get rid of that.
Yeah, I'd clone that out. I think other than that, you're getting, it's pretty cool. I like, it's got a lot of stuff going on, but it leads you right back to that tree. Come back and look over the foreground, but then you kind of go back to the tree. The icicles are cool. I don't know. I kind of like it.
Yeah, like you said, with the minimalism and that contrail is pretty easy to, I mean, in that it's fairly thin and it's not a
There's one at the top
large
too.
piece. There's a
Yeah.
larger piece up at the top. It would take a little bit of work on that. And yeah, you can't really crop it because then you get too tight against that tree. It's sticking up.
Did you process it much? Because I'm seeing some white around the tree branches in the sky. Did you like pull a lot of the sky out?
I didn't touch the sky. I increased the contrast.
Maybe too little too much contrast, because if you look at the branch, or at least on my computer screen, I can see some white edges around the tree, all the branches.
Like halos, you mean? Like
Yeah, halos.
Like the halo sound?
Halos. Do you see them? I know I could see them on my screen, but maybe it's me.
I see it a little bit on the ones on the lower right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just a little.
Yeah.
And is that from extra contrast or maybe sharpening or something like that?
Darren would be the expert on that, I would think. Anyway.
But yeah, I like the, as you described, kind of that minimalistic look of, that what becomes the subject in your scene is a small piece of the overall scene, but it definitely is still it clearly in the scene is the subject. So that's, and yet you still have, even within the foreground and that, you have things going on there as far as the diagonals and that, so.
You know what you might try is to burn down a little bit on the black on the ground that's closest to us, so that it's not all the same tone from front to back, or selectively, make little areas darker, little dodging, little burning, so that you're increasing the depth of the image. Because you got plenty of shadow detail in the blacks. So if you just make portions, here and there, a streak, make it light, dark, that might add some.
That's a good idea.
A bit more of that contrast that kind of thing.
That's good. Good idea.
I think there's just a few left. Yeah, I remember this being one of the last two.
Yeah, this is mine. I was intentional camera movement. It's a railing with Christmas lights, and then in the background was a parking lot with some lights. So I was mainly doing this to kind of play around with Lightroom's masks and all. So do different techniques, either picking colors or luminance and playing around, and then using a brush to bring things in or out. I have another photo that's with more of an original one that you can kind of compare and see the difference between the two. Okay.
This one?
Yeah. So that's the one where I did more of the processing, and the other was the original. So
do you want to do it, compare again?
Yeah.
So it's
yes.
You have to do shift tab to bring your chat toolbars back. And then you can select the two and then hit the compare X and Y. That's what I do. And then do shift tab to get you back to no toolbars.
there you go. Yeah, now we can see the two side by side.
Yeah. So the right was the one that I was more processing, and I kind of liked.
Oh.
First I was doing
One
making. Yeah.
There we go. Sorry.
Yeah, at first I had everything real dark on the right one, and then I liked kind of the wispy. So up top you have the lights that are real discreet, and then a little bit more blurriness on the lower, and it's kind of fun. You find something and all of a sudden I'd pull out maybe some other little lights and that the mask would pull out and also it was, like I said, it was more kind of a learning experience how to play with masks in Lightroom. So,
Yeah.
So did you mask by color or subject?
this one I did by color. Yeah, so I picked 5 colors, and at first a lot of them would disappear. Some of the lighter ones would not appear. So then I'd take a brush and do a minus on it and it'd pull those out. So
Sounds like you're ready to teach a class on masking in Lightroom.
I don't think so. Especially when they start talking about intersecting masks and all.
Yeah.
Pretty wild, but yeah, it was fun and I learned a lot. So.
No, this is great. And it's, again, just another example of it's fun now with, each time, each iteration of, whether it's Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever programs you use to process with, as they come up with some of these new features, a great job of going and digging in and experimenting. And kind of that's how you learn how to use it on images like this. And then you carry that across to some of the other things, but just knowing that they are there and experimenting with them is part of what gets, just become the familiarity with those tools, and that is what's real helpful. And this looks like, I'm sure it was a lot of fun to do, and I like the results.
Yeah, thanks.
I think that was it.
Yep,
We're going to turn into pumpkins in 5 minutes.
That's right. We get the police show up.
The squirrel hunt.
So with that, I'm going to hit stop share. There we go.
Well, thanks for braving the weather, everybody, and coming out.
Yeah. I want to, again, a special thank you to everybody who submitted the images. Again, a lot of real good images tonight. I thought the commentary was really good. Thank you for everybody for, again, suggestions. And I find these exhibition nights a real good learning opportunity. I know from either the ones that I submit or the ones that others submit, along with the commentary from everybody. So again, thank you everybody for the participation. Thank you for those of us who came and drove out here. Hopefully everybody has a good, safe trip home, and look forward to seeing everybody in, what did we say? 19th. So 2 weeks, Dave Purcell will be presenting on showing us some of his secrets that he uses for some of the portrait post-processing and that. So stay tuned, but that's 2 weeks from tonight. And that one, by the way, also is virtual in that we don't have the room that night. So we will have Zoom information coming out shortly.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.